Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Worden, Precinct 8. Well, despite what the distinguished speaker before me just said, I'm still of the opinion that a more straightforward form of this article would be to see if the town will vote to abolish the single-family districts in the town. The ARB's proposed bylaw contains, despite what you've heard, no safeguards or limitations except that the ZBA must give a special permit. A review of past history indicates that the ZBA grants just about every special permit that is requested. If a homeowner wants extra income, he or she should sell his single-family house and buy a two-family house, of which, as you know, there are many in Arlington, both in the R2 districts and scattered throughout the R1 districts. As far as the elderly are concerned, or us long-term homeowners, the proposal is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If the ARB were sincere about just helping the elderly, they would make the accessory use end when the elderly person dies or vacates the home, which all of us are going to do eventually. As for family members, a situation just described, extra bathrooms can be added without any permits except to follow the plumbing code. And family members really should be able to share a kitchen, and we have had plenty of experience in our own family of doing that, and we didn't have a problem. Preserving the character of the existing single-family neighborhoods is said to be a concern, but there are essentially no safeguards in their proposed bylaw. My amendment seeks to remedy at least some of the shortfalls, and I move that the amendment, and I've already handed a copy to the moderator, be I move that amendment. I don't know if you can read that. Thank you. Will I read the amendment, Mr. Moderator, or can everyone see it? It was on their chairs Monday night. I'm glad to read it if anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you just explained it, sir.
The reading of it is waived?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If you're as elderly as I and your eyesight as bad as mine, you couldn't see that screen, but I'm glad you folks are better situated. Okay. The proposal that an accessory apartment must be within the home as it exists at the time of the application leaves a hole large enough to drive a house through, or at least an accessory apartment. It's an open invitation for the owner or developer to build whatever addition he wants, finishing everything but the kitchen and then applying for the permit. My first amendment sets January 1st, 2012 as the basic condition into which the new apartment must be inserted, thereby guarding against this sort of abuse. And their proposal, if you recall, said it must fit the dimension, it must be within the building as it exists when you apply for the permit. So obviously, you make the building the way you want it, then you apply for the permit. And my amendment would try to fix that. The proposal is said to be needed for elderly homeowners who need help and or income but don't want to leave their homes and for some reason don't want to take in a boarder. So my second and third amendments go exactly to this point. Only the elderly or disabled owner can get such a permit, and when he or she no longer owns the house, the permit expires unless the property is sold to another elderly or disabled person. Otherwise, as I mentioned before, you have a permanent solution to a temporary problem. My amendment makes the solution fit the perceived need. My fourth amendment addresses the situation where, say, you want to provide for your mother-in-law, but you or she, or maybe both of you, need some level of separation. Again, when the situation ends, the permit would end. These amendments are, I believe, essential to create at least some safeguards for accessory apartments. Without them, the proposed bylaw is completely intolerable. There is, I think, an economic argument against accessory apartments. If every single-family home can be converted essentially into a two-family simply by getting a special permit, the value of single-family homes is going to decrease in view of the additional population density, congestion, automobile parking, traffic, etc. The value of existing two-family homes would also decrease, as so many more would be on the market, that it would be found to have a negative effect upon existing stock. Does anyone really want to gamble with the value of his or her most valuable asset, their home, just so someone else can earn a few extra dollars in rent? The so-called community interest in accessory apartments is a myth. A former member of the redevelopment board told me that during his time in office, he knew of only a single person, a person said to already have an illegal accessory apartment in her house, raising the issue. At the official public hearing on March 12th, contrary to what the gentleman said, which was advertised 2 times in the Advocate, it states, as it states in the report, not one person spoke in favor of this proposal, and the 4 people who did speak on the subject were against it. So much for public input. This article is really about increasing the number of apartments in Arlington. Do we need more apartments here? We already have some 8,000 rental units in town, 41% of all units, according to the statistics which I found. This is 3% more than the state average. So we are really, as a community, doing our part to provide rental properties to those who wish to live here. Even as we speak, this number is being increased. 120 units are being under construction in the biggest plywood ranch you ever saw down where Brigham's used to be. Another, the long-delayed Sims Hospital project, which the selectmen promised would contain medical uses and a limited residential element, is going to have something like 170 units. That's about 300 units in the immediate or near future. In my opinion, we need more apartments about as much as we need more banks. How many more apartments are we talking about, potentially, if the proposal were to be approved without my amendments? According to figures obtained from a source believed to be reliable, there are 4,896 single-family houses in the R0 and R1 districts that are on lots that are at or over the minimum lot size for those districts. Just think about the impact on our town of nearly 5,000 more housing units. The further densification of one of the most densely populated communities in the state, the 5,000 more cars, even if they got their own parking places, the additional schools and teachers for children requiring public education. So please vote for my amendment in order to create at least some safeguards if this should go through, but please vote no on the entire package. And while I'm up here, I do want to thank Mr. LaBelle for providing these buttons, which is already